She's so violent.
You just ran over me! You just ran over my foot! You're tired! No, you're not! You're right here! You ran over my foot!
Don't touch me, bro.
Don't touch me, you bunch of thugs! Fuck you, bitch!
Fucking white ass.
Whoa! Who did?
That guy in the red! Yeah, right behind this guy! You ran over
Fuck out of
my
here, fucking
foot!
piece of shit! You fucking losers!
You ran over my foot!
Fucking stupid niggas!
You guys, keep moving!
Fucking dumbass fucking niggas!
And this guy right
go.
here!
Y'all gonna be on the news. Y'all gonna make the news.
That's fine!
All right.
Hey, fucking idiots! Y'all stupid niggas! Listen, you stupid niggers! Put that gun to my head, stupid bitch!
Oh, man. What's your deal? What's your deal? Why is your chin further back than the rest of your face?
Why are you an asshole?
Huh?
Why are you being an asshole?
Why am I being an asshole?
Yeah, you just come over here.
You are what you eat, sir.
Firstly, I'm a woman.
Is that like, huh?
Firstly, I'm a woman. Secondly, you come over here and you just go, hey, why is your chin further back from the rest of your face? You're making a comment about my appearance as someone you just freaking met, and you want to sit there and talk about how I am what I eat? Honey, no.
Okay, first of all, you have something green on the side of your mouth. Are you gonna? But you just got it off though. Skate away. Skate your problems away. I know you're trying to run away, but you can't run away from your own chin. I thought this was my hood.
It's the worst fucking Italian nightmare. I would be the piss at you from one end of this restaurant to the next. You're an asshole. Your mom should be so happy you raised a dick. Fuck you.
Darkness, bitch.
Whatever.
Darkness.
Film me. Put it in public.
My mom would bet you Stop.
Darkness, nigga.
Umbrella. She's up. Whole nother level of shit you can't even understand.
What is good, my people? We are live back again with another episode of The Forecast. Now, as a community, we really need to start teaching our children at a young age about the surroundings they are in. We need to teach them how to defend themselves. We live in a society where people will start trouble with you and then play victim and call the police on you. A lot of people love to say how we play the victim, but nobody plays the victim better than them. And some people that want to hurt you but know they can't do it themselves will harass you in public. It doesn't matter where you are. And then the moment you respond, they start crying and then they go call the police. Sometimes they'll even lie and say you have a gun or something. But in most cases, the very first thing they go to is, are you threatening my life? And they use that to justify whatever harm comes to you after that. And more times than not, when the police show up, they stay right on code with the rest of the dominant society. It doesn't matter if you're an elder. It doesn't matter if you're a kid. It doesn't matter if you're rich or poor. You could be fresh out of college or fresh out of jail. They see us all the same. In California, a 19-year-old brother, Kendrec Mcdade, who was a college student that played football, and even though he was unarmed, he still got shot 8 times by Pasadena Police. So let's see how this young brother, Kendrec Mcdade, ended up getting shot so many times by the police.
Prosecutors in Pasadena, California say a man who called 911 to report a robbery could now face charges of involuntary manslaughter. Oscar Carrillo called 911 Saturday to report that his computer and backpack had been stolen. He insisted the thieves were armed.
911, what are you reporting?
Hey, man, you guys just stole my backpack. Just put a gun on my face right now.
Do you remember anything about the gun?
Both have a gun, man. They took the gun and run away from me.
So both had a gun?
Yes, I know. Both have a gun.
Police were looking for armed suspects when they found 2 fitting their description. The officers say they shot 19-year-old college student Kendrec Mcdade when he reached for something in his waistband.
Unfortunately, the officer believed that this individual was going to shoot him, and he took what he felt was life-saving measure and opened fire and shot Mr. Mcdade. It's tragic.
Mcdade, who was killed, was not armed. According to Pasadena's police chief, the robbery victim, Carrillo, later admitted that there was no gun. Carrillo allegedly claimed he had made up the details so police would act more quickly.
But if you report a crime And it turns out that that crime did not occur, we're talking about the gun, and a terrible situation occurs, such as the death of Mr. Mcdade, then you are partly responsible for that. We didn't pick that out of thin air. That's the law.
A lawyer for Mcdade's family is calling for a thorough investigation.
I have an issue with the Pasadena Police Department doing their own internal affairs investigation, because there is a potential for someone to say they're covering for their own.
Carrillo was arrested for investigation of involuntary manslaughter, but authorities have not decided whether to charge him formally. The juvenile who was with Mcdade has been charged in connection with a robbery.
So an illegal immigrant, Oscar Carrillo, called 911 and said this brother Kendrick Mcdade and another 17-year-old brother robbed him of his laptop. And not only did he say one of them had a gun, he said they both had guns. When the police got there, they said they saw these two brothers walking down the street and they fit the description, which they didn't because neither of them were armed. But the police said they took off running. Officer Mathew Griffin said he sped past him in his car to cut him off. Then he said as he started to run past his car, out of nowhere, he just turned and started running right to the cops. The cop, Mathew Griffin, said, "He scared the crap out of me. I don't know why he started running towards me, but maybe it's because you drove in front of him trying to cut him off." Now, the cop said he thought he had a gun and it looked like he kept reaching for his waistband. So, fearing for his life, this cop, Mathew Griffin, fired 4 times through the driver's side window of his car while he ducked down, dodging imaginary bullets. He claimed he heard 2 shots and thought this brother was shooting back. His partner, Officer Jeffery Newlen, who had been chasing on foot, said he saw this brother Kendrick Mcdade go towards the back of the car and crouch down. Now, that's probably because he just got shot, but he said he heard those 2 shots and thought he was shooting at his partner. So then he fired 4 or 5 times himself. Now, it turns out this brother didn't have a gun at all. All he had in his pocket was a cell phone. So I don't know where all these shots the cops here are coming from. The guy that called 911 in the first place, Oscar Carrillo, admitted that he lied and they didn't have a gun at all. He only said it so the police would come faster. And even though the guy got caught lying about the gun in the first place, the police still say they believe him about the robbery and the student was a thief, even though they never found this laptop or backpack that was supposed to be stolen. Now, at first, they were going to charge the guy that called 911, Oscar Carrillo, for making a false police report that led to the death of this young brother. And even though the police have no problem charging a 16-year-old girl with the murder the police committed themselves, they probably realized that'll open up Pandora's box against all these people that called 911. So they dropped the charges. Of course, they didn't charge the police, the only person that was charged for this alleged robbery.
Tonight, the independent investigation is now underway in the killing of Kendric Mcdade. He is the 19-year-old who was shot to death 2 weeks ago by police in Pasadena. NBC4's Beverly White is live for us in Pasadena tonight with the latest. Bev?
Well, Chuck, the lawyer for Kendrick Mcdade's family responded with what took so long when told the police had invited the FBI and the Office of Independent Review to take a look. Tonight, we've confirmed the feds are looking into possible civil rights violations. Summit and Orange Grove is all quiet since March 24th, when police on a 911 armed robbery call shot and killed 19-year-old Kendrick Mcdade, who was later found to have been unarmed. By request of Pasadena's police chief, veteran investigators with the Office of Independent Review are now looking into what happened and why.
Timeline hard to know. Our timeline is impacted a lot by how long it takes the department to complete its detective investigation and a lot of other factors that make it difficult for us to know. I think the last review that we did took about 9 months, but we hopefully will get that done before a 9-month period.
Police booked 911 caller Oscar Carrillo for involuntary manslaughter, saying he lied about being robbed at gunpoint, but the DA declined to press charges. Late today, Pasadena's chief also asked the FBI to investigate the case, but community activists say Pasadena police must do the right thing.
To make a very serious, objective investigation, to get to the bottom of it, not to scapegoat Oscar Carrillo, who's an undocumented immigrant who called 911, which is very unfortunate that he did that.
As for McDade's killing, questions persist as to why one of the Pasadena officers fired from inside his patrol car. Consultants say that so-called tactic will be scrutinized.
In the course of 10 years, we've looked at close to 500 shootings, and while it's a little bit rare, it is certainly something we've seen before.
McDade's funeral has been set for Saturday at 10 a.m. at Metropolitan Baptist Church on North Fair Oaks, and the public viewing is tomorrow night from 4 to 7 p.m. at the mortuary right across the street. Reporting live in Pasadena, I'm Beverly White, NBC4 News.
Now, evidence shows one of these cops shot this brother while he was already down on the ground. Then as he's bleeding out after being shot 7 or 8 times, they put him in handcuffs. But the police in charge of investigating themselves put Officer Keith Gomez in charge of the investigation, even though he has a history himself. In 2006, he was accused of intimidating a suspect and witnesses, and he was accused of manufacturing evidence in a murder case. Kendrec Mcdade family named him in a lawsuit, saying he's been directly responsible for the deaths of multiple black men. And now they chose him to investigate this case.
Carrie Harper, the attorney for the family of Kendrec Mcdade, the 19-year-old former Azusa High School football standout who was shot and killed by Pasadena police officers Mathew Griffin and Jeffery Newlen, has filed a federal lawsuit against the city of Pasadena. In the lawsuit are the alleged eyewitness accounts of bystanders who claim they saw what happened the night of the incident. The lawsuit, filed on Tuesday, April 3rd, claims the wrongful death and civil rights violations of Kendrec Mcdade. Harper states in the lawsuit that the officers involved in the shooting, Mathew Griffin and Jeffery Newlen, intentionally, negligently, and recklessly assaulted, battered, and shot Mcdade, depriving him of his life without due process of the law. Also in the suit are the alleged accounts of bystanders who say that Newlen and Griffin did not identify themselves as officers, nor did they command Mcdade to stop, freeze, or halt. Accounts go on to say that Mcdade did not die immediately after the shooting, and that the officers handcuffed the teenager while he laid on the ground twitching. We reached the Pasadena PD, who had no comment about the lawsuit, but in a press release sent out on April 5th, Chief Sanchez has requested the FBI to conduct an independent review into the officer-involved shooting death of Mcdade. In the release, he is quoted in saying that the FBI offers another level of independent review. As of this report, no word has been made about how much monetary compensation Mcdade's family is seeking in their lawsuit. Carrie Harper says in the lawsuit that the methods used by the Pasadena PD in regards to the shooting are just the latest in what she terms a pattern and practice of covering up excessive force. She says that the Pasadena PD has suppressed information, specifically the alleged statement Oscar Carrillo made to Detective Keith Gomez, one of the officers named in the lawsuit, that he had prior knowledge of the minor who accompanied Mcdade that night, and that he had, quote, a grudge of them. Now, this is interesting. So the independent review is really, has been ordered by a judge to be locked to the public. And I know a lot of people, especially, people in the community are wondering, well, why is this?
It just, again, it's one of those things which it doesn't build the trust. I feel like, even if there was a situation, obviously the officers have been cleared, which, without the background information as to what led to the clearings and all of that, it doesn't make you feel good about what's in that report. And it could be, people could back their report,
well,
but we
the official
don't know.
word is that there's sensitive information, personal information related to the parties that were involved that the public should not know.
Okay, well, let's just deal with those small sections. Why does the whole report have to be blocked? I don't understand that part.
There is an edit button, isn't there? You can definitely, or
the redacting. Let's get the Sharpie out, and just that can be understandable. We don't know what officer information is on there, but to just just block the whole report. Now there is a preliminary injunction to, on September 23rd in the court to see if this can be unblocked. But I know that Joe Brown had really talked, former president of the NAACP, had talked about this is when people need to be out there and be vocal.
I'm just wondering. I mean, it seems like everything's pretty much said and done. What good would it be to kind of put this out there? I mean, I'm wondering out loud, actually.
Well, because people need to know what changes have been made, what changes were recommended, what changes need to be made, what is the police force doing with this. I know Chief Sanchez has been very clear that, he will take the necessary steps for reform, but the public should be aware of this.
And it just goes into what he always talks about with the community involvement.
Of course, after investigating themselves, the DA, Deborah Delport, And the police chief, Philip Sanchez, justified the shooting, calling it lawful and saying the cops acted within policy. But of course, police refused to release details of the case and chose not to release the police report or even explain why they were cleared. You just have to take their word for it. Then a judge, James Chalfant, ordered that the police report be sealed. Now they sealed them to hide the cops' name and to hide whatever record they had and to do whatever they could to protect them. Eventually, they were forced to release it with redactions, even though the police union did everything they could to try to stop it, because it shows so many contradictions in the cop's story. Even the people investigating said they made many tactical errors, like the cop Mathew Griffin. If he was so concerned about the position he was in, then why would you drive through the alley to put yourself in a vulnerable position? He tried to pull his gun from his holster while he was driving and crashed his car. Police policy said they prefer cops to stay together during foot chases. But Officer Jeffery Newlen took affirmative steps to separate himself from his partner and made it worse by not telling his partner what he was doing. Neither one of them reported they were chasing a robbery suspect nor that that person was armed. They also didn't cut their lights or sirens on, which automatically activates a dash camera, which is against policy and is a problem. Even the way the cop Mathew Griffin tried to pin him in was against policy. But at the end of the day, they face no punishment. They're still out there patrolling. This guy that called 911 is still living his life. And they say the cops weren't disciplined because they did not violate policy. This is why we have to protect ourselves. We have to realize we don't have any friends. We can't cape for other groups. How are we going to help other people when we need to help ourselves? And these other groups who we think are friends could turn on you in a heartbeat. A lot of people in these other groups think they are a part of the dominant society or try to be a part of the dominant society. And the way to get into the dominant society in America has always been come after us. If we don't put our tribalism, our religious beliefs, our political beliefs, whatever personal issues we have to decide to do what we got to do, then we're going to continue to get the same results. The same thing is going to happen over and over and over again.
Step on the vehicle.
So why he reaching for his
And he
gun?
said, look, this is a traffic stop. I don't have to get out. I don't have to get out my car. Listen, she telling you it's just a traffic stop. She telling you it's just a traffic stop. It's being recorded. Your obstruction is being recorded. Step out of the vehicle now. Huh? What am I getting out my car for? Because it is a traffic stop. Last time before I break the window. And then what? You're not searching my car. Step out of the vehicle now. You're arrested. One moment, sir. Listen, you're operating in the capacity of an Uber. You need to step out of the vehicle. I'm not Ubering. This is my family. This is a traffic stop. That's my girlfriend and that's my baby in the back. Right now. Step out of the vehicle. Y'all not searching my car. Step out of the vehicle. Y'all not illegally searching me. What am I stepping out of my car for? Traffic stop. Right? You don't step out when you got license and insurance. Sir, step out of the vehicle. You don't step out of your car when you got license and insurance. Period. For our safety, your safety, step out of the vehicle. You're not going to jail, but you will go to jail if you obstruct us. Just step out of the door. All right, I'm gonna step out. Y'all not searching my car. I'm not giving nobody permission to do shit. I'm stepping out.
Just lock the door behind you. Can you close the door?
What's that?
Can you close the door?
No, I'm going to keep it open for right now.
I have a child in here. That's why I basically close the door.
I understand.
Can I speak to someone else?
You know what? Hold up.
You have.
I'll shut the door.
Hey, get him down! He has a gun! He has a gun! Stay down! Stay down! Stay down! Stay down! Stay down! He's got a gun! He's got a gun! He's got a gun! Find the other one! He went running that way! Oh my God. I can't breathe.
You'll be fine.
He's got a gun in his,
You can breathe.
he's got a gun in his waistband.
I got you. I already see it. You reach for that, I swear to God you will regret it. You understand? You do not move. Rolling towards you. Where's the gun?
Where is it?
Tell me where it is.
The gun?
He had it flying like towards me, and when he jumped the fence, I shot.
Check
He didn't shoot. He didn't shoot, but he had it like at me as he came out the window.
Who shot?
I did. Just me.
Stay cool.
You guys have been problems since you got in here.
Problems since you got in. You want to separate yourself, you go in and they stay here. But I'm not.
She's out. She's out.
He's calling the shot.
She's out of here. Everybody's out of here. You guys are all out of here. Take your ride.
See how they treat our kids?
Take your ride. Get out of here.
We're out here, they call them animals.
Yeah,
they call our
you're
children
behaving
animals.
like an animal.
They call our children animals. They're doing the very same thing that the rest of these kids are doing in here. They just called our children animals. It's raining out here. It's cold out here. These kids have paid their own money. These kids paid their money to come in here too.
Listen,
and they're being persecuted.
So you have to leave.
They're being persecuted just as well.
Listen.
I paid my money.
No.
I'm not going anywhere.
Listen.
My kids are in there.
This is
I'm not paying. I'm not going
trespass.
anywhere.
Get off
I
the
didn't
premises.
trespass anything. I didn't do anything wrong. You better not touch me. I'm watching this guy. Look at this guy. Don't touch me. You better not touch me. I have not broken any law. Get off of me. Get off of me. You see this guy? Get off of me. What are you doing? Look at this guy. You are not. I didn't do anything to him. I didn't attack you. You won't let this man do this to me? And you know I wasn't wrong?
Resisting arrest.
Resisting arrest for what?
Give me your other hand.
Look at
Give
him.
me your other hand.
I didn't break any laws. Get off.
Sí, ya lo pasaron.
Yo pensé que le había tocado.
No, le dio con el taser.
We begin with video just released of a rough arrest that led to legal trouble for a Miami-Dade police officer.
The video shows that officer kicking a teen in the head when he was already down and handcuffed. Let's go to Local 10 News reporter Christian De La Rosa live to show us. Christian.
Well, this cell phone video was shot by bystanders just off of Northwest 57th Avenue north of Miami Lakes. Take a look. It's the video the state attorney's office says shows a Miami-Dade police officer kicking a teenager while in handcuffs. The alleged abuse of force followed a traffic stop back in February. 17-year-old David Brown was wanted in connection with a burglary case. The officer seen kicking the teen, identified as Sergeant Gustavo de los Rios, was suspended with pay after witnesses shared this video with authorities. Prior to what we see in the clip, Brown reportedly got into a physical altercation with officers who tried to stun the teen suspect with a taser but were unsuccessful. Brown, who wasn't seriously injured, was charged with battery on law enforcement officers.
Obviously, I don't know if it was racism.
David Brown's father spoke to Local 10 News back in August.
Maybe he just feel like he got power.
Miami-Dade Police Director Juan Perez stressed his department has been cooperating with the investigation involving Sergeant De Los Rios, saying in part, his actions are disappointing and do not reflect our agency's core values. I assure our community that all allegations of misconduct involving our personnel will be vigorously investigated. No one is above the law. And the state attorney's office is charging Sergeant De Los Rios with misdemeanor battery. He has pled not guilty as he awaits trial. The Miami-Dade Police Department tells us he is currently on desk duty.
You have too much! That's paint! Not face! I am a nigger.
The derogatory video of a University of Oklahoma student in blackface with her friend included a racial slur using the N-word. Today, as discussed, spread across campus, the university president said both students withdrew from school.
This type of behavior is not welcome here and is condemned in the strongest terms by me and by our university.
With the Tri-Delta sorority condemning what they call the racist, offensive, and disgraceful conduct of the women, tonight the organization says their member is out. The university says both students have apologized.
Doesn't make sense to me as a human being why they would think that kind of behavior is okay.
The outrage at OU comes 4 years after the Sigma Alpha Epsilon fraternity was shut down for this racially charged incident on a bus. 2 students were expelled then.
This kind of thing happens a lot on campus. Honestly, it's more frequent than people think.
Tonight on this Martin Luther King Jr. holiday, some at OU call this a sad reminder of where we are and how much further the school and nation has to go.
They painted black again. I guess President Gallagher's message did not go through. Again.
Less than 1 week after a blackface video went viral, a second video has surfaced shot near the OU campus. This time a female student follows the man and records him as he strolls around Campus Corner.
Our Bonnie Campos spoke with that woman. Bonnie joins us live tonight from campus. Bonnie?
Well, it's been 5 days since the initial blackface video surfaced at a sorority house involving 2 students. Today it was a man walking in plain sight.
They painted black again.
Either I could have walked away and was like, okay, it's cool. Or I can actually make a difference, like, you gotta stand for something.
Ashante Winston says as a campus and community, OU has to do better.
Like yesterday, the rally, there was a lot going on, but it's like, how can we really come to a common ground and hear each other out when we have ignorance walking around this campus?
President Gallagher held a news conference to address actions taken against 2 sophomore students who withdrew from the school after one was caught on camera wearing blackface. Following today's blackface sighting, the school says OUPD is working to ensure all on campus are safe. A free speech advocate reminds others that long ago the Supreme Court ruled censorship is not the answer.
It's not illegal to say words that are simply offensive to other people or to walk around in blackface. People have a First Amendment right to be stupid. I know it's hateful. I understand that. I understand it hurts people.
Many students say these actions cannot be tolerated. They want the school to take action.
I could have acted out the way I wanted to. I could have done a lot of things to that boy. I don't know who he is. But I do represent a much bigger body, and we are one, and we stand together as family.
Now, we have learned there will be 2 rallies held tomorrow, one held for students who say their voices are still unheard, and one in support of the president.
I'm sick and tired of white people setting the standard for our children. Benson High School, the little racists, had white adults decide to put out a paper dealing with the N-word. White adults, white children are the ones on the paper and decided to do this. And it come up with the conclusion that if you put A on the end of the word, instead of ER, it's a term of endearment. These white people are talking about this word that is the most degrading, insulting word that can be used for us. The World Herald praised them. White people praise them. They say these white students have courage. If I used profanity, you'd hear me use it on the floor this morning. But I'm not like white people. I won't do that. But they're going to get some of these white kids hurt. You use that word with an A or an ER, and I would tell any black child, bust him in the mouth, knock his teeth out, teach him what these white people will not teach them. You're going to have these white people in a school predominantly black, with predominantly white teachers, teaching these white children that it's all right to use that word, that it can be cleaned up. You clean up manure by spraying perfume on it, and then I'll tell you can clean up these words. That's what white people do. Then they want to tell me I shouldn't be offended. They're not the ones to determine what insulting things are all right for our children. Now, if somebody in here had a child who's in special education and I ridicule that child, that person would be offended and outraged. But when it comes to our children, it does not count. White people know. And this little white girl who is the editor of the paper is saying, well, we did just what we wanted to do. We wanted to have discussion. Well, in one of the elementary schools, a white boy called a black child that word with an A on the end of it and said, you have to let me call you that because it's all right. Well, that child didn't hit him back. He called him white trailer trash peckerwood. And he was sent to the office and told, we don't allow name calling here, but nothing was said to the white child. And then when this black child, who is insulted, hits that white child in the mouth, the black child is expelled. You all create impossible conditions for our children. Do it among the adults so that an adult can test it on me. Use that word with me and let me give a whipping or take a whipping. But don't put my child in a classroom setting and these white people are going to decide that it's all right to play with that word. This is not playtime when you deal with that word. This is a dangerous game you're putting those little racists in.
1 minute.
You're starting them out young and telling them, you be just like me. And we're not going to teach people that this language is inappropriate. We're going to teach you that it is all right. And tell these black children, you have to accept it because white people own you. And when the black parents were outraged, the World Herald didn't talk about that. They talked about how outraged these white people got when the principal was put on paid leave. And because white people got upset, they brought her back. But what about our feelings? The feelings of our children who go to these schools controlled by white people. Then that education committee thinks they're going to get a bill through this legislature that leaves everything as it is. Well, as long as I have breath in my body and I'm a member of this legislature, I will fight that bill. And if you get 33 votes, I will fight every other bill. And you need to know where things are. And the only way you know is if I tell you. Why don't they do that to me? I can defend myself.
Time, Senator.
And I will. But our children, I'll die and go to hell 10 times for our children.
All right, and we're back on the forecast. Now, we as a community really have to start getting back into the mindset of policing ourselves. We live in a system that take our tax money and force us to pay for people who are there to keep us in check, whose main goal is to enforce the system of America. If you're going to serve a government or an army or the police, you might as well be in an organization meant to benefit you. You can't be free in a system where another group of people determines your justice. And people talk about black on black crime, and crime in our community is a problem that we have to deal with. But you don't see America letting China punish American citizens. And when it happens in our community, we can't let outside forces come in either, because they don't see us as any different. They look at us all as the same. And as far as black on black crime, they've always used that talking point to justify what they have done. Hundreds of years ago, we were savages and they were taming us. And today they say, well, what about black on black crime? But those same FBI numbers they love to quote will tell you those numbers are an estimation and not even close. To label something black on black crime, you have to have a suspect and a victim. And at least 17% of cases, they don't know who the suspect is to label it black on black crime. Not only that, you have to ask, do those numbers include people suspected of committing a crime, people arrested, people convicted? Because if it goes by conviction, we know people like George Zimmerman murdered Trayvon Martin, but he doesn't count towards the murder statistics. You have to question the methodology for all of these numbers they try to use against you. Because most of the time, their talking points are based off pseudoscience. Although crime is a problem in our community, we have to deal with it ourselves. As long as we let our outside force come in and deal with it, we'll be subject to their rules and their punishments. And it leads to cases like what happened down in Mississippi, where the Jackson police ended up beating a 61-year-old man to death. Now let's see what can make the police beat up a 61-year-old man to death.
Robinson was actually arrested just hours after the death of a pastor at his own church. Now, I went to the area and actually spoke to several people about exactly what happened to Mr. George Robinson on a Sunday morning. Now, that's when a JPD K-9 and Vice Narcotics were out apparently looking for suspects in the shooting death of Pastor Anthony Longino. Now, he was robbed and gunned down in front of his own church a Sunday morning. People tell me there was heavy police presence, and officers ran into George Robinson in front of a home where they thought a suspect may have been. Now, witnesses tell me they saw police beating Robinson before slamming him to the ground. They tell me the ambulance was called, but they were not sure how Robinson got to the hospital. Now, JPD says Robinson was charged with a misdemeanor. Chief James Davis with JPD says there is an investigation taking place to find out exactly what happened.
Right now, this investigation is ongoing. There's no one to come forward to say the police did any wrongdoing. That's what we have heard from the public, so that's why the city addressed this issue earlier.
Now, I did talk to the wife of Mr. Robinson, who says she and her family plan to file suit. Now, we did reach out to Hinds County Coroner, who says preliminary results show Robinson suffered head trauma. We are still waiting for a full report on that. Now, I did speak with several people in the area and just asked why they did not come forward. Many people say they are simply afraid. Still, JPD urges anyone with information about this to come forward.
Family of George Robinson is speaking out. He died after being arrested last week. Robinson was charged with a misdemeanor, and what exactly happened is under investigation. His sister says she wants justice.
It's so sensitive where we couldn't even wrap our head around it. We didn't even have any clue till they had come up here and did this to him. When I made it to the hospital, they was already rushing him. You know what I'm saying? So we don't even know what happened. We just don't know what happened. So we trying to find out what happened.
Now, a preacher, Reverend Anthony Longino, had just gotten robbed and murdered while he was opening up his church. So, of course, the Jackson police go out and investigate the murder. Now, just because we want justice for this preacher's murder doesn't mean we want you to go around violating and hurting every black person you come across. Many people in the area say the police often run up on people, violating their rights, forcing them on the ground, and searching them. People say it's gotten a lot worse over the last few weeks. They just run up on people, guns drawn, violate their Fourth Amendment right, and illegally search them. And they do it without a warrant anytime they want. This 61-year-old brother, George Robinson, who was sitting outside minding his own business, when the K-9 unit task force approached him. Now, the police never said what he did for them to approach him. They never said what law he broke. They didn't say if or why he looked suspicious. He was just sitting in his own car in front of his own house when they approached him and told him to get out. Now, this brother, George Robinson, who was 61 and had just recently had a stroke, wasn't moving fast enough for the cops. So they snatched him out of the car and then they started searching it illegally. Witnesses say they had him pinned against the car while they were searching it. Their witnesses say they saw the cops beating him up, hitting him in the head with a flashlight, and then they slammed the 61-year-old man on the ground. Eventually, they ended up charging this man with resisting arrest, even though they never said what he was arrested for in the first place. So they gave him a court date and let him go. So later that night, he started having headaches and went to the ER, where he ended up dying a day or two later. Now, even in Mississippi in 1805, they passed a law about cruel and unusual punishment to black people. But today, they beat this 61-year-old man to death for no obvious reason. And the police can't seem to figure any of this out. It's such a mystery. The police said they need an autopsy before they can continue the investigation. but a medical examiner already ruled it homicide by blunt force trauma to the head.
3 Jackson police officers involved in the arrest of a man whose death has been ruled a homicide are now on administrative leave. Let's go to WJTV 12's Jade Balexa, who is live outside of police headquarters with the latest developments. Jade?
Yeah, those 3 officers are on administrative leave with pay. Now, the Hinds County coroner's report shows that George Robinson died of a hemorrhage due to blunt force trauma. Now, on January 13th, officers were searching for those responsible for a pastor's murder. Police spokesman Sergeant Roderick Holmes told me Robinson was arrested and released on 2 misdemeanors: failure to obey a police officer and resisting arrest. But what exactly happened is under investigation. The chief wasn't available for an interview. Sergeant Holmes says Robinson's family has filed a formal complaint against the department. The family told me they are working to find an attorney. Now, the mayor is out of town, but says once the investigation is complete, it will then be turned over to a grand jury for review.
Now, this Jackson Police K-9 unit task force, whose names they refused to release, although the mayor was supposed to sign an executive order that said officers' names are supposed to be released within 72 hours. They said in this case, because it didn't involve an actual shooting, that they don't know if this law applies. And since it's longer than 72 hours, I guess it doesn't. Of course, the police are unclear if they had body camera footage, but a neighbor said she got it on video, but won't release it out of respect for the family. Now, of course, these cops got their paid vacation, and then the medical examiner got right back on code. And she tried to take back what she said about the homicide until she sees the autopsy.
The Hinds County coroner initially reported head trauma during Robinson's death, but has since said that she wanted to wait until the official cause of death was determined through the autopsy, which has yet to come back. Meanwhile, Robinson's family says they want JPD held accountable.
But they need their badges turned in today.
The tireless search for Pastor Anthony Longino's killer ended in tragedy for 62-year-old George Robinson. Jackson Police Chief James Davis says Robinson was charged with a misdemeanor and was going to be field released, but what happened after that is still under investigation. Robinson died 2 days later from his injuries.
You wanted justice for somebody else? Okay, tell me how I'm going to get justice. Now, that's what I want them to tell me. I want them to tell me how am I going to get justice.
Robinson family and friends are now seeking justice for George.
Protect and to serve, that's not to protect and to serve. That's not to come out. You give one family justice, and then all you do is come out and brutalize my family.
What can they do for the police immediately? We don't need to wait till next year and all that, and they still going around doing the same thing. Only thing we ask is for justice.
Family members say George suffered a stroke weeks ago and was still recovering.
He couldn't move his right side good. So if he was moving kind of slow, it was because he had had a stroke in his right side.
Earlier today, a spokesperson with Jackson Police Department said that this matter was still under investigation. And like I said, they are waiting for the autopsy to come back so they can determine an official cause of death.
Now, it took 3 cops to beat up this 61-year-old man who recently had a stroke, and he could barely move his right side. They still have no reason why they approached him in the first place, and his only charges was not complying with their demands and resisting arrest. Because we know what happened to niggas that don't comply and resist. But the police can't seem to figure out what happened in this case. This man didn't have anything to do with robbing or killing his own pastor at his own church. They arrested somebody else in their 20s that most likely doesn't even know him.
Breaking news for you today at noon. A second suspect is arrested in the shooting death of a Jackson pastor. WJTV 12's Linnea Lewis has the latest on what happened in court this morning. Linnea.
Well, Andrew, no bond was given to 23-year-old Bernard Randall, who's the second person charged with robbing and shooting Pastor Anthony Longino of New Bethany Missionary Baptist Church. Now, this morning we learned Randall is being charged with capital murder, armed robbery, and aggravated assault for an incident that happened at the Robinson Street Food Mart last week. He was given a court-appointed attorney who asked his bail be set at $10,000 for each charge, but the judge denied that request. Just yesterday, 22-year-old Marquez Hamilton was also charged in the killing of the Jackson pastor. He's charged with capital murder, armed robbery, auto theft, and conspiracy. He, too, was denied bond in court.
Now, yes, we want justice for this pastor. We just don't want a lynch mob going around killing innocent people to get it. Now, the difference is these young 20-some-year-old brothers are going to pay for the crimes they committed. Meanwhile, the police are out there still free to keep doing it. And if you want to compare black-on-black crime to police murders, I would rather my tax money go to these young brothers in the hood. I know most of their problems come from poverty. That's why we have to be in charge of policing our own communities. We can't let one bad situation turn into another one that'll never get justice, especially in places like Mississippi. It took Mississippi until February 7, 2013 to submit the proper documentation to ratify the 13th Amendment. They didn't officially accept the 13th Amendment or abolish chattel slavery until a few years ago. Mississippi is one of the places that still had people in chattel slavery 50 or 60 years ago. Up until the 1960s, they claimed these black people owed them a debt and told them they couldn't leave and had to work to pay it off. That's called peonage, another form of slavery, and that has been outlawed since 1867. So before a random lynch mob come to our communities trying to solve our problems, they need to deal with the people in their own communities. And we can't let outside forces dictate how we handle our justice. But until we get on code with each other, they can just come into our communities and do whatever they want to do. At the end of the day, at some point, we're going to have to learn that we're all we got. And nobody's going to get us out of this situation but us.
Well, now this follow-up tonight, a small Attala County town is questioning whether a weekend chase and fatal shooting are a hate crime. Sheriff's Department officials met with residents to answer questions about the killing of Kendrick Sharkey. Rosalind Anderson has more.
More than 125 people crowded into New St. James Church of Christ to find out more about Saturday's investigation in Salis, where 24-year-old Kendrick Sharkey was found shot in the woods following a chase on Attala Road 4106.
They had no business, no chasing behind somebody, taking the law into your own hands.
Investigators say 52-year-old Frankie Barber and 42-year-old Barry Ware are charged with a fatal shooting. One weapon is being processed. The two told investigators Sharkey fired at them first, but no other weapon has been found.
As revealed up to this point in time, we do not believe he had a weapon.
Residents asked questions and voiced concerns that while 4 were seen in the truck chasing Sharkey, only 2 were charged. Relatives say Barber accused Sharkey of stealing iron from his property, then later chased his car, causing it to crash.
Frankie, his son-in-law, his daughter, they pulled up. The son jumped out and said, "Y'all been the one taking our stuff." And said younger brother Marcus, he said, "We ain't been taking nothing."
Some of us feel that it was, you know, I'm tired physically, mentally, but I mean, I just want justice. You know, if it was a hate crime, I want them prosecuted to the fullest. Either way, we just want some justice.
I saw it happen. And for me to just see the look in that man's face chasing him, I cannot get out of my head.
Sheriff William Lee said the Mississippi Bureau of Investigations and several other agencies are assisting.
We're going to do everything we can to make sure that we get convictions. I promise you that. You ain't got to worry about that part of it. If it's more evidence comes back where we can charge people, charge more people, whatever, we're going to do that too.
Clergy asked for fairness in solving this crime and bringing all involved in the murder to justice. Rosalind Anderson, WLBT News, Attala County.
Sheriff Lee said the FBI would be consulted to determine if the fatal shooting constitutes a hate crime.
Women who instigated hateful hit-and-run death get jail time. Sarah Graves and Shelby Richards look like college co-eds, but they're actually some of Mississippi's most racist people. They, along with these men, are now in the slammer for the vicious beating and murder of this man, James Anderson, outside a Jackson, Mississippi motel in 2011. Jackson is Mississippi's capital city and is predominantly African American. Rankin County, on the other hand, is majority white. Apparently, there is a long history of racist-fueled violence involving people from Rankin County driving into Jackson solely to terrorize blacks. The women, along with 6 men, came across James Anderson in the parking lot of a motel and beat him to within an inch of his life for no reason other than being the first black guy they saw. In the end, Graves and Richards goaded Daryl Dedman into running Anderson over with his truck, killing him. Dedman was sentenced to life in prison for actually killing Anderson with his truck. Richards and Graves pleaded to 1 count of violating the federal hate crime law and will face a maximum of 5 years in jail and a $250,000 fine. All the others in this case have also pled guilty for their crimes as well.
Poisoned in his own dorm room. A former chemistry major at Lehigh University is accused of attempting to kill his roommate. Our Cleve Bryant has that story.
Nothing really would have prompted this.
A roommate relationship that took a dark turn. Thursday, police announced new charges against former Lehigh University student Yukai Yang. In April, the Chinese international student was hit with several misdemeanors for allegedly vandalizing his black roommate's stuff and writing with marker, N-word, get out of here. From that investigation, police discovered Yang was also allegedly poisoning his roommate too.
Throughout that interview, Mr. Yang, who is a chemistry major at Lehigh, admitted to purchasing various chemicals through the internet, including thallium.
Police say for months, Yang secretly put the toxic metal thallium in his roommate Joanne Royal's drinks, all the while pretending their several-year friendship was normal.
I think, like everyone, this kind of came out of left field, and it just breaks my heart.
Kevelee's Matthews Alvarado was the resident advisor for both students last year. She remembers Royal getting sick multiple times.
Having to go to the hospital or passing out.
But until the racist graffiti incident, she and Royal, who she still talks to, thought everything was normal with Yang.
Reading the accusations, and not even accusations, but actual actions that took place, really breaks my heart because it was very malicious.
Police say that Yang turned himself in on Thursday morning. He's facing attempted homicide and aggravated assault charges. He's also going to have his visa revoked. Police tell us that Royal is still feeling the effects of the thallium poisoning.
And I'm Glenn Walker. They gathered to celebrate a birthday, but suddenly they were mourning a death. Tonight, outrage and conflicting accounts of a shooting that left a partygoer dead and a police officer wounded. CBS 2's Rachel Kim live now in Inglewood with more. Rachel?
Well, Glenn, Inglewood police here say Marcus Smith was armed before they opened fire on him, but witnesses say Smith was not armed. And right now, these conflicting reports have many in this community calling for answers. Friends of Marcus Smith begin to create a memorial and a vigil to the man who was shot and killed by Inglewood police early this morning.
Pow, 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 pow. You don't know what's going on. You got people hollering and saying, stop it, don't do that.
Inglewood police say they responded to a fight at a birthday party when they encountered a man armed with a handgun. Police say the man, Marcus Smith, threatened officers before multiple officers fired back. Smith was killed and one officer was shot in the leg. One witness has a different version of what happened.
4 times. As he was laying on the ground, I lift up his shirt and actually seen in the back 4 bullet shots in his back.
Inglewood police say they recovered a semi-automatic handgun at the scene and that preliminary evidence suggests Smith did open fire on the officers. Now, this shooting is the latest in a rash of shootings involving the Inglewood Police Department. Last March, the Justice Department opened a probe into previous shootings involving unarmed suspects. Now, tomorrow, community leaders will hold an emergency meeting with eyewitnesses and police because of these conflicting reports. We'll keep you posted.
I'm going to take you to jail.
You said let's go.
Go. I don't see that cart moving.
No, you told me.
We gotta buy something. We buying something.
You're not buying anything. You're leaving Walmart.
We gotta buy those.
No, you're not. You're leaving.
We gotta come in here. This supermarket.
Leave the Walmart now.
Fucking bull. We still pay for our stuff though.
Yeah, exactly.
We still pay for our stuff.
What's up, man? What's up?
I ain't gonna get put in jail for nothing.
What's up? What's up, man?
Come on, fool. Move the car and go.
Can we at least buy these chips real quick? Cause I really want these.
I want to shop, I can shop all day. What, I can shop?
You cannot shop. I'm telling you to get your ass up off that cart and get out of the store.
She cussing at us.
Come on, man.
Because I'm speaking fucking English, and the fact that you don't understand
She's cussing at us.
You speak English, bitch. You talk crazy.
If you're so intelligent, then you understand what I'm saying. Now leave the store. If you want to come back again and be able to shop at this Walmart, I suggest you go.
I ain't talking to you. Hey, what's up, man?
Go. Get up and get out of here.
Come on, man.
I'm letting you ride this damn thing to the door.
Everything on camera. I ain't doing that wrong. Shit. I'm talking about me. I'm shopping.
Rescue Mike Brown. Rescue Mike Brown.
I ain't doing that wrong.
No, don't go to jail for this shit. No. Don't go to jail for this shit. No.
Don't leave right now.
No, you can't do that. That's not right. That's not right. No, hell no. Hell, you don't need that shit on your record, boy.
I ain't doing that. What we doing?
Look, man. Look. All right, it's on camera, so we go to court for this shit. It don't matter, because we ain't did nothing wrong. We ain't did nothing wrong. Hell, come on, man. We don't need this shit, dog. We don't need this. Excuse me, man. We don't need this, please. Please, ma'am. Man, please. Oh, Lord.
I hope
Okay.
you're not going to take us to jail because we leave the Walmart now.
All right, we leaving. Oh, his phone just cracked. You threw his phone now. His phone just cracked.
No. Go.
It just cracked his phone. His phone just cracked.
Oh, you got it lighter. I'm sure that one.
All right, we leaving. Harold, can we take your wallet and stuff? That's when we take his wallet. It's a right to take his wallet and stuff, though. It's a right for him to take his wallet, right?
I'm about to tell you one more time, you're going to jail. Take off.
Go.
This is so racist. This is racist as fuck.
Yeah, it is. Take off. Take off.
Don't say no. Oh, on camera?
Don't say no.
He wants you to fuck shit.
You can't come on, man.
Come on, bro. Just don't worry about them folks, man. It's not a speed limit to walk. That's not right, folks. Rest peace, Mike Brown, man.
Sorry about Martin, too.
Walmart, what do you expect us to do?
We didn't do nothing in Walmart.
Okay. Well, your buddy's showing his ass in Walmart. We ask you to leave, and you don't leave, right?
He wasn't even showing his ass.
He was in a car accident. He wanted to park. He said we couldn't get on.
He just got in a car accident a week ago.
That's not our problem, okay?
Yeah.
If Walmart doesn't want you here, our job is to come make you leave.
Well, Walmart ain't say
that. That's what Walmart said.
They didn't tell us to leave. They didn't tell us to leave, though.
You got a call.
They didn't tell us to leave.
Y'all get in your car and leave.
All he did was follow us around.
Okay. Well, he called us and told us he wanted you to leave.
Well, I got a piss. Can we just go back in and pee?
No, you can't. Get in your car and leave.
All right.
Okay.
It's good.
What if I can't leave? I don't care what you do.
That's fucked up for them taking my cousin to jail for nothing.
I swear to God.
Him doing nothing. That's why they gonna get a big ass lawsuit on it. Just like they blew their goddamn county jail. Talking about the goddamn gas ain't. Man, whatever, man. All this shit. They gonna pay for this shit here.
I'm showing all y'all ass. We just admitted that.
Excuse me, sir. What your name is?
I'm black. I don't need to tell you my name. Get in the car and go.
But we got to tell y'all our names. All this shit on camera, so we good. Squad.
Please, don't shoot me. Please, don't stop. He said I saw him by the wall. I see him. Yo, they trying to kill me. He trying to kill me. He right there. Walk over there. He trying to kill me. I didn't do shit. They guys trying to shoot me themselves. I'm good. I'm just paranoid. That's it. I'm not touching nobody. I swear to God, y'all know I'm not like that. Please.
He's a little paranoid or something.
Hold on, help me. I didn't do nothing to nobody though.
We got a unit coming.
Okay. I didn't hurt nobody.
Okay.
I wasn't hurting nobody.
Alright, no problem.
I swear to God I wasn't.
You want to go to the hospital?
Yeah, I need some water. I'm dehydrated. I need some water now. Like I'm losing.
Alright, the hospital has water.
Can I get a cup of water, please? Please.
no water
It's like my I can't talk.
He may have just left.
Yo, y'all gonna kill me?
You at the hospital? No. We're at the fire department. We're just gonna take you to the hospital.
They just kicked me out. They beat me up in the hospital. The ambulance. The security guards in there. Please don't kill me, officers. Please don't kill me. Please don't kill me. Please don't kill me.
She was one woman whose cells changed countless lives in the face of medicine forever. Her cells were used to create the first immortal human cell line in the early 1950s. Now Henrietta Lacks is being immortalized on a wall. Fred Slade has more on her life and legacy and the importance of her contributions to the medical world.
And 3, 2, 1. Family and friends got a close look at the latest portrait to adorn the walls of City Hall.
We have so many untold stories about significant people in Baltimore, and when the story of Henrietta Lacks was first told, it amazed people all over the world.
This day is a very special day, exciting. Our grandmother's portrait is permanently being hung at City Hall.
Henrietta Lacks died after a long battle with cervical cancer in 1951, and doctors at Johns Hopkins University kept and cultured her cells without the family's permission.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know her story, that her cells were taken. They don't know the story behind the healer cells, that it was an actual woman who these cells belonged to. And that's what we're trying to get out there, that she was a woman. She was an African-American woman. She was a mother. She was a wife. And she left behind 5 beautiful children.
A lot of people made money and still making money hand over fist off my grandmother's cells. And the family, you know, we're not really being compensated. So it's an honor for me today to be able to let the world know that Henrietta Lacks was very profound in helping this world through medicine.
And with the taking of her cells, it was more so of a gift to the world.
You heading north? Nah, man, I believe this is southeast. Well, how far behind you is they? Who? The dogs. I don't hear the dogs. Man, what dogs, man? Is there something I can help you with? Because I'm on my way home, and man, I am whipped. Oh, Lord, how many lashes they give you? Nah, man, I mean, I'm beat. Well, at least you still got your foot. Man, look, what is it that you want, man? I don't have any time for this. You must be one of them house niggas. Look, I'm just looking for my freedom. Freedom? Yes, sir. Well, where the hell you been, in the cave? Yes, sir, right back yonder. Oh, man, look, you must be from the South, man. Brothers up here don't act like that. No? Excuse me?
Well, move it. You're blocking the way.
I'm sorry, sir. We just mosey out your way. Man, what the hell is the matter with you?
I'm trying to jog, and you're blocking my way.
Yeah, well, next time, you know, run around, jackass.
What?
Is you crazy, man? Is you crazy? You don't be talking to no white man like that. You know, they want to be right even when they wrong. We are sorry, sir. We are sorry, sir. Don't mean to hurt you. We're sorry. He must got one of them, that colored fever going around. Boys, now feel too well. Accept my apologies, please, sir.
Well, I'll accept yours.
Thank you.
But I don't like your friend's attitude.
You better change your attitude. Man, why did you do that? What you talking about? Didn't your pappy teach you nothing about survival? You don't talk to the white man like that. Them people want to be right even when they're wrong. You see what you did? You don't put the dogs on us. Them dogs are a lot smaller than Pappy said they would. It's 1991. What did you say? I said stop eyeballing that white woman. Your fancy clothes on. Man, you can have that if you so desire, brother. And this is 1991, man. All that handkerchief head stuff don't play up here. This is America. We are free. We can do what we want.
There he is, officer. That's the one.
We done brought the slave catchers on us. Well, feet don't fail me now. Man, be cool. Be cool, man. We haven't done anything wrong. Officer, I'm glad you're here, see, because...
All right, face down on the ground and put your hands behind your back.
Hey, wait a minute, wait a minute.
Get down on your knees and get your hands behind your back.
I is down, sir. If I go any further, I'll be in China.
You have the right to remain silent.
Man, this is outrageous. We ain't mean no harm, Mr. Slave Master, sir.
You better shut up.
Yes, sir. Please don't beat me. Don't beat me. I tried to warn him, but he wouldn't listen.
Hush up. I'm not talking to you. You're free to go.
I was free?
Yeah, keep moving.
Wait a minute, man. I think he's in the singing group or something, man. Yes, sir. I'll keep moving. That's a good idea. Freedom don't seem to last too long around here.
All right, and we back on the forecast. And I want to say RP to the brother Kendrick Mcdade and the brother George Robinson. It doesn't matter if you're old, young. They get a kick out of attacking our elderly and our children. We have to protect ourselves. We have to control our own situations. If something happens in our community, we have to deal with it. But we can't build the institutions we need if we don't support each other. The only difference between now and 100 years ago is we believe the illusion of inclusion. 100 years ago, they knew they had nobody but themselves. And right now, we can put together an organization and nominate the most successful business people to be in charge of funding and helping grow black businesses. And we all can contribute to it, whether it be $1 or $1 million. Just make sure they stay transparent and they do what they say they're going to do. Otherwise, stop sending your money because they're probably been infiltrated. But if you rebuild your economy, you can build your schools so you can teach your children. You can create ways to produce your own food. You can create organizations to protect you. But at the end of the day, that's not happening until we put our tribal differences to the side. We have to leave our religious beliefs at the door and work together to protect ourselves. So as always, man, we have got to start standing for something, or we're going to keep falling for anything.